The stars were quiet. Floating in the dark void of space, a small broken escape pod drifted slowly. Inside, a young alien girl named Lyra lay still. Her skin was pale blue. Her eyes, once full of wonder, were dull now. She was barely 10 years old, and she was the last of her kind. Her home planet, Cornus, had been destroyed 3 days ago. The attack came without warning. The Draxans, a violent and powerful species, had invaded from the shadows. They hated peace. They hated knowledge. And they especially hated the Corn, a gentle race of scientists, thinkers, and dreamers. The Corn never had weapons. They never believed in war. They believed in learning, in building, in helping. That was their mistake. Lyra had watched from a window as the skies of her world turned red. Giant ships rained fire from above. Buildings fell. Her parents, both scientists, had rushed her to an escape pod. Her mother had hugged her tightly. "Be strong, Lyra," she whispered, placing a glowing blue crystal in Lyra's hand. "You carry hope now." Then the doors closed. Lyra had screamed. She didn't want to leave them. But the pod launched into the sky, shaking, crying, spinning toward the unknown. Now, she was alone. The escape pod was damaged. Its systems were failing. The food and water were gone. Oxygen was running low. A small red light blinked on the control panel. Her breathing grew weaker, slower. Lyra curled up in a corner, clutching the blue crystal, her mother's last gift. It gave off a soft light, like a piece of the sky. She tried not to cry, but she was scared. So scared. She had sent out distress signals, hundreds of them, but no one had answered. No one was coming. "Maybe. I really am the last," she whispered. Her voice was dry. Her lips were cracked. Her hands trembled. Her vision blurred as sleep tried to take her. And then, a sound. A beep-beep on the control screen. Faint, weak, but there. She forced her eyes open. A ship. A real ship, coming toward her. It wasn't Draxan. Its shape was different. Rough, dirty, but fast. Lyra blinked again. Was she dreaming? Was this death? The ship stopped beside her pod. A soft light flashed through the cracked window. Then, a click. The pod door opened with a hiss. Light flooded in, and a tall figure stepped inside. He wore a thick black suit and a cracked helmet. A long scarf around his neck floated in the air. He moved fast, strong but careful. He didn't speak at first. Lyra stared, confused, scared. Then the figure took off his helmet. It was a human. Messy brown hair, rough stubble on his chin, tired eyes, but kind. He looked at her and raised an eyebrow. "Well, you don't look so good, kid." His voice was calm, soft. Lyra didn't answer. She was too weak, too afraid. But the human didn't shout, didn't threaten. He crouched down and opened a small pouch. He pulled out a silver packet, tore it open, and held it to her lips. "Water," he said. She hesitated, then drank. The water was warm, but it felt like life. Her eyes filled with tears. "Better?" the human asked. Lyra nodded slowly. He picked her up gently. She weighed nothing. "I'm not leaving you here," he said, walking back to the pod door. "Let's get you out of this metal coffin." His ship was small and old, but full of life. Lights blinked on every panel. Wires hung from the ceiling. A small robot rolled past and beeped hello. The human placed Lyra on a soft seat and covered her with a blanket. She couldn't stop looking at him. "Whoa, who are you?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. He smiled slightly and leaned back in the pilot's chair. "Name's Jack. Jack something or other. Don't worry about the rest." Lyra blinked. "Why? Why did you help me?" Jack looked at her for a moment. His face grew serious. "Because," he said, "nobody else did." He tapped a few buttons, and the ship turned. Engines rumbled. "You're not gonna die out here, kid. Not on my watch." Outside, the stars shined brighter. A tiny crystal glow in Lyra's hand matched them. She didn't know it yet. But this human, this rough, quiet, kind stranger, had just changed the future. Because sometimes all it takes is one human who refuses to walk away. The human with no name. The hum of the ship was the only sound. Lyra sat quietly, wrapped in a thick gray blanket, her eyes scanning everything around her. She was no longer in the cold, dark escape pod. She was in a real ship now. Alive, warm, moving. But it didn't feel like home. Not yet. The walls were made of metal, scratched and dented. Wires ran like vines across the ceiling. Lights blinked in strange patterns. In the corner, a small round robot rolled around, softly whirring and making cheerful beats. She didn't understand anything here. Except the human. He stood at the front of the ship, in the pilot's chair, his boots on the floor, arms behind his head. Relaxed, but alert. His name, or at least the only name he gave, was Jack. He hadn't told her much, not where he was from, not what he wanted. Just that he found her, just that he wouldn't let her die. That was enough. For now. "Never seen one of your kind before," Jack said without turning around. "Blue skin, big eyes, you lot peaceful." Lyra nodded slowly. "We don't fight." Jack scoffed. "Yeah, I figured. That's probably why you're floating in space and not blowing stuff up." His words were rough, but there was no cruelty in them. Just truth. Tired truth. Lyra looked down at the glowing crystal in her hands. The one her mother gave her. It still pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. Jack noticed. "That from your home?" She nodded. "It's a data crystal. My mother said it holds important science. Maybe memories." Jack turned his chair around and leaned forward. "Smart parents. Your kind. The Corn. Right?" "Yes." Jack nodded. "Heard of them. Scientists. Peacekeepers. Always building things. Never hurting anyone." He paused. "Too bad the galaxy doesn't care." Lyra blinked. "Why did the Draxans destroy us?" Jack looked at her with tired eyes. "Because they could." There was a silence. Jack stood up and grabbed something from a shelf, a small container. He opened it and handed her a round biscuit. "Eat. You need your strength." Lyra took it carefully. It was dry, but sweet. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Nowhere. Everywhere," Jack said with a shrug. "I'm a scavenger. I go where the junk is. I find things, fix things, sell things. Sometimes I help things." "Like me," she whispered. Jack didn't answer for a moment. Then he smiled. Just a little. "Yeah, like you." Later, Jack gave her a small tour of the ship. It had 3 rooms, the cockpit, the cargo bay, and a tiny room with 2 beds. Everything was old but working. "Name of the ship's Dust Rider," Jack said, patting a wall. "She's ugly, but she flies." Lyra looked at the bed, then at the robot cleaning the floor. "What's that?" "That's Bits. Don't ask what he's made of. I don't remember." The robot beeped proudly and spun in a circle. Lyra smiled, the first real smile since her planet fell. But that smile didn't last long. The alarm went off. A loud, sharp beep. Jack's eyes snapped to the radar screen. A red dot blinked fast, getting closer. "No, no, no," Jack muttered, pressing buttons. "Not now." "What is it?" Lyra asked, her voice shaking. Jack stared at the screen. His jaw tightened. "Draxan patrol ship. Small. Fast. Scanning range." Lyra's heart raced. "They found us." "Maybe. Maybe not," Jack said quickly. "I need to hide you." He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the cargo bay. On the sidewall, he opened a narrow panel. Inside was a dark space just big enough for her to crawl into. "Get in. Now." "But." "No buts," Jack said firmly. "You stay silent. Don't move, no matter what happens." Lyra's hands trembled. Will they kill you?" Jack looked at her. For once, his joking face was gone. He looked serious. "Cold. Ready. They'll try." She climbed into the wall space. Jack closed the panel. But not all the way. A tiny slit of light remained. She could hear everything. Jack walked back to the cockpit. He slowed the ship down, turned off some systems, pretended to be drifting. Moments later, the Draxon ship appeared on the side window. It was black and red, shaped like a claw. Cold, sharp, evil. A voice came through the radio. "Rough. Cruel. Unidentified vessel. State your purpose." Jack replied in a calm voice. "Just a junk hauler, passing through. Got a busted engine. No weapons. No cargo." There was silence. Then, "Prepare for boarding." Lyra's breath caught. She heard the clunk of the Draxon boarding tube. Heavy boots stepping inside. Voices. They were inside the ship. "Check the cargo bay." Footsteps came closer. Closer. Lyra froze. One pair of boots stopped just outside her hiding space. Then, a strange sound. A sniff. "Something's here," the Draxon growled. Another life form. Lyra's heart pounded. She clutched the crystal to her chest, closed her eyes. "Please, don't open the panel. Please." But the Draxon reached for it. Then, a crash. Jack's voice. Loud. Angry. "Hey, you break anything in there, you paying for it." The Draxons growled. "We smell something." "Yeah," Jack snapped. "That's me. I haven't showered in 2 weeks. You gonna write a report on it?" A pause. Lyra could hear weapons being drawn. Then Jack again, calmer. "Look, I'm just a scavenger. You want to waste your time here, fine. But I ain't hiding anyone. Check the logs." The Draxons muttered. A few tense seconds passed. Then, the boots turned. Faded. The door hissed closed. Jack let out a long breath. 10 minutes later, he opened the panel. Lyra burst into tears and grabbed his arm. He didn't say anything. He just sat there with her, hand on her shoulder, staring out into the stars. "They'll come back," she whispered. Jack nodded. "Yeah, probably." "Then what will we do?" He looked down at her. "We survive. Together." The stars didn't rest, and neither did the hunters. Jack sat in the pilot's chair, hands tight on the controls. His eyes never left the radar screen. The red dot from earlier, the Draxon patrol ship, had disappeared. But that didn't mean they were safe. Lyra sat beside him, her small fingers gripping the edge of the chair. She hadn't spoken in a while. Her face was pale, her eyes wide. She was trying to be brave, but her body trembled slightly. She didn't need to speak. Jack could feel it. The fear in her chest. "They didn't catch us," Jack finally said, as if trying to convince them both. "But they smelled something. That means they'll be back." He leaned forward, tapping a few buttons. The ship rumbled. "We're moving. Fast." The Dust Rider shot through space like a wounded arrow. Jack didn't follow the regular paths. Those were washed. He flew through the dark corners of space, places no one liked to visit, places full of debris, shattered moons, and dead satellites. Lyra looked out the window. The stars blinked like tired eyes. She finally asked, "Why do they care so much? Why chase us?" Jack sighed. "Because you're alive, and they don't like loose ends." She didn't understand. "But I'm just one girl." Jack looked at her. His voice was quiet but strong. "Sometimes one girl is enough." An hour passed. Then 2. The ship flew faster, slipping past comets and silent wrecks. Jack hadn't slept. Lyra had tried, but every small noise made her jump. Her people were gone. Her world was ashes. And now, even in the arms of a human savior, she felt hunted. She kept the crystal close. Jack finally broke the silence. "I used to be a soldier," he said, not looking at her. "Long time ago. Fought in the border wars. Saw a lot of good people die." Lyra listened carefully. "I left," he continued. "Couldn't take it. The orders, the lies, so I became a scavenger. Just me, this ship, and the junk I find." She asked softly, "So why did you save me?" Jack didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Because when I saw you floating out there, dying, I saw myself. And I thought, maybe this time I could do the right thing." Just as things felt calm, the radar beeped. Not once, not twice. 3 red dots. Jack stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "Damn it," he growled. They'd brought friends. Lyra's eyes widened. 3 ships. Jack nodded, already tapping buttons. "Draxan patrols. They're surrounding us. We've got maybe 4 minutes." The ship's warning lights turned red. The soft hum turned into a loud, angry buzz. Lyra stood, panicking. What do we do? Jack's eyes were sharp now. Focused. We run. Hard. The Dust Rider's engines roared louder than ever before. Jack pushed them to the limit. Lyra was almost thrown off her feet as the ship turned hard left, diving into an asteroid belt. Huge rocks drifted everywhere, spinning like slow knives. "Hold on to something," Jack shouted. Lyra grabbed a rail and held tight. She could feel the ship shaking, as if it might break apart. Behind them, the Draxan ships followed. Cold, deadly, and fast. "They're gaining," Lyra cried. Jack slammed a lever forward. Not for long. Inside the asteroid belt, things got worse. The rocks were bigger here. Closer. One wrong turn, and they'd be crushed. Jack swerved left, then right, diving under a spinning boulder the size of a house. A few feet behind, one Draxan ship clipped a rock, its wing torn off. It exploded in silence. "One down," Jack muttered. But 2 remained. They weren't making mistakes. "These guys are trained," Jack growled. "Too good for patrol ships." "What does that mean?" Lyra asked. "It means they're not just hunting you," he said grimly. "They're hunting me too." Then, a hit. A sudden boom shook the ship. Lyra screamed. "We've been tagged," Jack shouted. Rear engines hit, slowing down. The lights flickered. Lyra looked back. A trail of fire spun behind them. "We're not gonna make it," she cried. Jack didn't answer. He was thinking. Fast. Then, an idea. He turned sharply toward a nearby moon. It was small, covered in ice and fog. A perfect place to hide. Or crash. "Hold tight," Jack said. "We're going in." The Dust Rider dove into the moon's atmosphere, ice crystals flying across the windows. The Draxans followed, still shooting. Alarms blared. Jack flipped every switch he could. Then he pressed a button. "What did you do?" Lyra asked, panicking. "Emergency cloak. Won't last long, but long enough." The ship vanished from radar. For a moment, just a moment, silence. The Draxans flew past, confused. Jack landed hard behind a frozen ridge. The ship slid, metal screaming, until it stopped. Smoke filled the cabin. But they were alive. Inside the ship, Jack leaned back, breathing hard. Lyra crawled over and hugged him tightly. He didn't push her away. His voice was soft now. "You okay?" She nodded, shaking. "What now?" she asked. Jack looked at the radar. The Draxans were circling. "They'll search every inch of this rock. We've got maybe 2 hours." Lyra stared at him. "Can we fix the ship?" He didn't answer. Instead, he looked at her, really looked at her. "Your crystal. You said it had data." She nodded slowly. "Good," Jack said. "Because if we die, someone else needs to find it. The danger wasn't over. In fact, it was just beginning. But now, there was purpose, a mission, hope, and in the frozen silence of a distant moon, a human and a little alien girl prepared to fight back. Together. The air inside the Dust Rider was cold and heavy. Smoke still hung in the corners of the ship, and a few wires sparked from the ceiling. Outside, the frozen moon howled with icy winds. Snow piled against the hull, slowly hiding them beneath a blanket of white. Jack sat by the engine, tools scattered around him. His hands were dirty, his face tight with focus. He had opened the back panel, trying to fix the damage from the Draxon hit. But the truth was, the ship wouldn't fly again without new parts. And there were no spare parts here. Across the room, Lyra sat quietly, holding her crystal. She hadn't spoken in a while. Her thoughts were spinning. Too fast, too heavy. Fear, loss, guilt, and something else. Anger. "I don't want to hide anymore," she finally said. Jack glanced up from the wires. "What?" "I said," Lyra repeated, louder now. "I don't want to keep running." Jack set down his tool and walked over. "You don't have a choice, kid. We run, or we die. That's how it works." Lyra stood. Her hands were trembling, but her voice was stronger now. "My people didn't fight. We believed in peace, and they destroyed us." Jack looked at her closely. "And now?" Lyra stared out the frosted window at the snow-covered hills. Her voice was calm, but firm. "Now, I want to fight back." Jack didn't speak for a moment. He wasn't used to this version of her, this brave spark inside a girl who had once curled up, nearly lifeless, in an escape pod. He smiled, just a little. "There's something I should show you," he said. He walked to a wall panel near the cargo bay and opened a secret compartment. Inside was a small black case. He opened it slowly. Lyra's eyes widened. Inside was a weapon. Sleek, heavy, beautiful. "This," Jack said, lifting it carefully, "is a plasma pulse rifle. Military grade. I kept it, just in case." She stepped back. I don't know how to use that." "You will," he said. "But first, we test something smaller." He reached into another drawer and pulled out a small EMP device, a round disc with blinking lights. "This," he explained, "disables machines, like drones, doors, even Draxon helmets. It sends a shockwave, non-lethal, good for a sneak attack." Lyra took it in her hand. It was warm, humming. "What do I do with it?" she asked. Jack smiled. "You learn." They trained for the next hour inside the ship. Jack showed her how to throw, how to aim, how to move without making noise. At first, Lyra was clumsy. She dropped the disc. She hesitated. She cried once. But she didn't stop. Every time she fell, she got back up. Her hands grew steadier. Her aim got sharper. Jack watched her carefully. "She's not a child anymore," he thought. "She's becoming something more." Suddenly, the radar beeped. A new signal. Jack rushed to the screen. One red dot. Close, moving slow. "Draxon scout," he muttered. "They're checking the moon." Lyra stood by his side. "What do we do?" Jack was already grabbing his rifle. "I'll draw him away," he said. "You stay here." But Lyra stepped forward. Her voice was strong now. "No, let me try." Jack turned. "Lyra, I can do it. Let me." There was a pause. Then Jack slowly handed her the EMP disc. Outside, snow crunched under her boots as Lyra moved through the icy wind. The cold burned her face, but she didn't stop. The Draxon scout ship had landed near a ridge. A single soldier had stepped out, tall, armored, cruel. Lyra crouched behind a rock, heart pounding. Jack's voice echoed in her mind. "Wait, watch, then move." The Draxon walked slowly, scanning the area with a glowing red visor. His weapon was ready. Lyra waited until his back was turned. Then she stood. And threw. The EMP disc flew through the air, spinning, blinking, and hit the Draxon's back. VZZZT. A flash of blue light exploded across his armor. The soldier screamed, dropped his weapon, and fell to the ground, twitching, then still. Lyra stood frozen, breathing hard. She had done it. She won. Jack appeared a few minutes later, rifle in hand. He looked at the fallen Draxon, then at Lyra. She held up the disc, smiling, teeth chattering. I hit him. Jack grinned. Yeah, kid, you did. Back inside the ship, Jack searched the scouts' wreckage. They found a small power core, enough to restart the Dust Rider's engines. But they found something else too. A data drive. Jack plugged it into his console. What he saw made him go pale. What is it? Lyra asked. Jack's face was hard. They're not just hunting survivors. They're hunting your crystal. Lyra held it close. Why? Jack zoomed in on the data. A message played. A Draxon officer speaking. The Corn Child carries the memory key. If she reaches the beacon, the entire network could be exposed. Eliminate on sight. Jack looked at Lyra. Your people left something behind. Something big. Lyra was quiet. Then she said, I know where the beacon is. Jack raised an eyebrow. You do? She nodded. My parents showed me. On a star map. A moon called Aron 6. It's hidden inside a nebula. Jack stared at her. Well, he said, loading his rifle, then I guess that's where we're going. But it's deep in Draxon territory, Lyra said. Jack smirked. Good. Maybe they'll all be home when we break in. As the Dust Rider powered up again, snow sliding off its hull, a new energy filled the room. Not just survival. Purpose. Lyra wasn't just a helpless survivor anymore. She was the key. The spark. And now, she was ready to light the fire. The stars looked different in this part of space. They didn't shine like tiny lights anymore. They looked like they were watching. Quiet, cold, waiting. The Dust Rider flew through the swirling colors of a nebula. Thick clouds of gas surrounded them, painting the ship in deep blues and purples. Jack kept both hands on the controls. Even he looked nervous now. Beside him, Lyra stared out the window. Her crystal pulsed gently in her hands, as if it could feel where they were going. This place, she whispered, is close. Jack nodded. This nebula hides more than stars. Signals don't travel well here. That's why the Draxons don't patrol much. He paused. But it's also why if something goes wrong, we're completely alone. They were heading to Aron 6, a forgotten moon hidden inside the nebula. Lyra's parents had told her about it once. A secret place where the Corn stored their most precious research, more than science, more than maps, truth, and maybe a way to fight back. The landing was rough. Aron 6 was quiet, cold, covered in blue dust and strange ice pillars that glowed under their ship's lights. It looked untouched by war. But it didn't feel safe. Jack scanned the area. No movement, no signals. If this beacon is still here, we better find it fast. Lyra nodded. She held the crystal tight and stepped out of the ship. Each step felt heavier, not from gravity, from memory. This was where her people hid their last hope. And now, she was the one bringing it back. They walked for an hour across the icy plain, toward a rocky hill. At the top, half buried in dust, stood a strange black door. Tall, silent, covered in Corn symbols. Lyra stepped closer. The crystal in her hand began to glow brighter. Jack raised an eyebrow. Looks like it likes the place. Lyra placed the crystal into a round slot beside the door. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a deep hum. The ground trembled. The door opened. Inside was darkness and the sound of something waking up. They entered the hidden facility. Long metal halls stretched out before them, covered in frost. Strange machines lined the walls. Some broken, some still blinking faintly after all these years. "It's still running," Jack said, surprised. Lyra's eyes lit up. "My people built things to last." At the center of the structure was a large room. The beacon core. A giant tower of glass and light rose from the floor to the ceiling. Around it were control panels with glowing blue circles. It looked peaceful, powerful. "This is it," Lyra whispered. "This is where they saved everything." Jack stepped back. "Then let's see what's inside." Lyra placed the crystal into the beacon's heart. A low hum filled the room. Lights danced across the walls. And then a hologram appeared. A woman, gentle face, blue skin, eyes full of wisdom. Lyra gasped. "Mother." The hologram smiled. "To the one who finds this, you are the last spark of our people." Jack stepped back, stunned. The message continued. "The Draxans feared us not because of weapons, but because of what we learned. We discovered their weakness, a flaw in their control systems, a code, a signal that can shut down their war machines." Jack leaned forward. "You're kidding me." Lyra's mother looked into the camera. "We hid this code in our child's crystal. You, Lyra, you carry it now." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "The beacon will now transmit the message to all allied systems. If anyone is still out there, they will come." The hologram flickered. "Be brave, my daughter, and forgive us for leaving you alone." The image faded. Silence. Jack turned slowly. "That's it. That's why they want you dead." Lyra was shaking. "I didn't know. I didn't. I just thought it was a memory stone." Jack walked over and knelt beside her. "You're more than just a survivor, Lyra. You're the key to stopping them." Lyra looked up. "Then let's send the signal." They moved to the beacon controls. Jack helped her power up the transmitter. Lights turned green. The tower began to spin. A deep vibration filled the room. And then, silence. Jack frowned. What happened? A red warning flashed on the screen. Jamming signal detected. External interference. Jack's face went cold. "They're here." Back outside, the sky turned red. 3 Draxan ships descended through the nebula, their engines howling like monsters. They landed just beyond the hill. Soldiers began marching toward the beacon. Jack ran to the window. "Too fast. We don't have time." Lyra stood beside him. "Can we fight?" He looked at her, thought about lying, then shook his head. "Not this many." She turned to the console. "Then I need to finish the transmission." "But they'll break in," Jack warned. Lyra looked him in the eyes. "Then slow them down." Jack grabbed his rifle. "You've got 2 minutes." He ran to the entrance. Alone. The Draxans came fast. Jack ducked behind the frozen pillars, firing shots as they approached. One fell, then another, but there were too many. He moved fast, using old soldier tricks. Traps, flares, smoke grenades, anything to stall them. Inside, Lyra worked with shaking fingers, trying to reboot the signal pathway. "Come on, come on." Outside, Jack took a hit to the shoulder. Blood stained his jacket. He didn't stop. He couldn't. Lyra cried out as the console sparked, but the light turned green again. Transmission active. She hit send. The beacon glowed brighter than ever before, shooting a beam of blue light into the sky. A signal, ancient, powerful, spread across the stars. Lyra fell to her knees, exhausted. "It's done," she whispered. But then, the door exploded. Draxan soldiers stormed in. Lyra backed away. Her eyes searched for Jack, but he wasn't there. One of the Draxans raised his weapon. "You carry the code," he growled. "You die here." Then, a shot. From behind, Jack appeared, bleeding, limping, but alive. He fired again, over my dead body. The battle inside was short. violent. But in the end, the beacon still stood, and the signal was free. Far across the galaxy, lights blinked in old stations. Ships powered up. Voices cried out. The Korn signal. It's real. Allies, survivors, resistance fighters. Hope was returning. Because of one girl, and one human who refused to let her fall. The beacon still glowed. Its blue light pulsed like a heartbeat, sending waves of hope across the stars. A message that could change the future. A signal that the Korn were not gone. That resistance was possible. But that light was also a target. Outside the facility on Aeron 6, the snow was on fire. Smoke rose from the battlefield as explosions shook the frozen ground. Red blasts lit the sky as more Draxan ships dropped from the clouds above, surrounding the beacon like vultures. Inside, Jack leaned against a broken pillar, clutching his bleeding side. His jacket was torn, his face covered in soot and sweat. He was running out of ammo. And time. Across the room, Lyra knelt beside the crystal console, still protecting the beacon with everything she had. Her small hands trembled, but her heart didn't. She had already made the choice. No more running. Jack slid down the wall, breathing heavily. That's 5 ships, maybe more. They're surrounding us. Lyra looked at him, her voice steady. Did the signal go out? He nodded slowly. It's out, but help won't come soon enough. We're on our own. Lyra stood up. Her clothes were torn, her hair wild. But her eyes, they were bright. What if we don't need help? She asked softly. Jack gave her a tired smile. You got a plan, kid. She walked to the console and pulled the crystal free. I've been hiding behind others my whole life, she said. Now I'm done hiding. Jack raised an eyebrow. That crystal's the key to everything. You sure you want to carry it into a battlefield? She turned to him. It's not just a memory stone. It's a weapon. My people built it with love. But I can use it for defense. Jack stood up, reloading the last of his energy cells. His arm shook. His side burned. But when he looked at her, he saw more than a child. He saw a spark. Then let's make this moon burn, he said. They set the traps quickly. Jack had hidden explosives in the cargo bay. Lyra used her EMP tools to rig the doors and panels. They moved like a team now. Sharp, fast, fearless. Jack handed her a small blaster, not a toy. Only shoot when you have to. She nodded. I know. Above them, the sky roared louder. The final Draxan ship landed just meters away. The ramp opened. Dozens of armored soldiers marched out. At their front was a Draxan commander, taller than the rest, with black armor and glowing red eyes. His voice echoed through the icy valley. Give us the child. Give us the crystal, and we'll make your death quick. Jack stepped into the open, his rifle raised, blood dripping down his arm. You want her, he shouted. Come and get her. The commander paused, then raised his fist. Burn them. The battle began. Explosions lit up the entrance as Jack fired the first shot. Snow flew into the air as mines triggered, throwing Draxans backward. Smoke filled the field. Lyra moved through the shadows inside, using vents and tunnels. Every step was cold, every breath harder than the last. She reached the inner reactor room and placed the crystal into a new slot. The power surged. Lights turned gold. The facility woke up. A secret system began to run. Outside, Jack was a blur. He rolled behind cover, blasted 3 soldiers, then threw an EMP grenade. Sparks danced through the air as Draxan visors failed. But he was slowing down. A blast hit him in the leg. He fell to one knee. The commander approached. Your fight is over, human. Jack looked up, coughing blood. Not yet. At that moment, the ground shook. A golden beam burst from the top of the beacon, brighter than before. Inside, Lyra activated the old Korn defense grid, a shield system buried deep in the moon's core. Blue walls of light sprang up across the battlefield. Draxons screamed as energy walls cut their path. Jack looked around in shock. "I thought this place was just storage." Lyra's voice came through his earpiece. "No, it was a sanctuary, and every sanctuary has guardians." The battle shifted. The defense towers lit up, firing beams of non-lethal but powerful force. The Draxons scrambled, confused. They had never faced Quarren technology like this. Inside the beacon, Lyra accessed the final file. A direct transmission to all known friendly networks. She recorded her voice. "This is Lyra of the Quarren. I survived. And I remember. If you hear this, you are not alone. We rise now." She sent it. The system confirmed. Transmission sent to 183 Allied sectors. Back outside, Jack limped through the smoke. The Draxon commander saw him and charged, blade in hand. Jack raised his rifle. Empty. Too slow. Too late. But before the blade could fall, a blast of blue light hit the commander from behind. He froze, then collapsed. Lyra stood behind him, her hand glowing, crystal shining like a star. She was panting, her body shaking, but her eyes never wavered. Jack looked at her. That was one hell of a shot. She smiled, tears falling. "You said I could do it." By nightfall, the battlefield was quiet. The remaining Draxons had retreated. Their systems scrambled, their leader down. The moon, once forgotten, now stood as a symbol of survival and fire. Lyra sat beside Jack near the beacon. His leg was wrapped, his shoulder patched, but he was alive. They watched the sky together. And then, ships appeared. Not enemy ships, Allied ones, dozens of them. Old Quarren cruisers, resistance crafts, civilian rescue vessels, all answering the call. Lyra whispered, "They heard me." Jack smiled. "Told you the galaxy just needed a reason." That night, the stars blinked brighter. The beacon still glowed, and two survivors, a broken soldier and a brave little girl, had lit the first spark of a new war. Not a war of hate, but a war for hope. The stars had changed. Once, they were cold and distant, silent watchers of suffering, but now they spoke again. They blinked with life, with memory, with hope. The beacon on Euron 6 still pulsed its signal across space, a rhythmic heartbeat calling out to every corner of the galaxy. And this time, someone answered. Dozens of ships surrounded the frozen moon, each one arriving with the same purpose, to protect the spark that had dared to shine in the dark. Inside the beacon core, Lyra stood beside Jack, watching the new arrivals land. Her face was tired, her hair messy, her small hands scratched and bruised. But her eyes, they burned bright. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was a messenger, a leader, a spark. "Looks like we're throwing a party," Jack muttered, leaning against the wall, his legs still bandaged. Lyra smiled, watching ships touch down. Some were Quarren, survivors like her. Others were alien rebels, resistance fighters, old allies from forgotten wars. They wore different flags, spoke different languages, but they all came for the same reason. The signal. Jack looked at her and nodded. "You called them. You brought them here." Lyra didn't speak. Her throat tightened with emotion. She hadn't seen her people in what felt like forever. She thought they were gone. All of them. Her mother, her father, her home. But hope, it seemed, was stubborn. One ship landed slowly. A sleek, silver vessel with a glowing Quarren symbol on the side. A ramp lowered. And from it stepped a figure, tall, blue-skinned, wearing a long white coat covered in burn marks and time. Her face was older, worn by pain. But when she saw Lyra, she dropped to her knees. Lyra blinked, her legs shaking. Mom. It was her. It was her mother. Alive. Tears burst from Lyra's eyes as she ran into her arms, sobbing into her chest. Her mother held her tightly, rocking gently, as if afraid to let go. "I thought you were gone," Lyra whispered. "I never stopped searching," her mother replied, her own tears falling. "Your signal saved us." Jack looked away, pretending to check his weapon. His throat was tight too, but he smiled. She deserved this moment. All of it. Over the next few hours, the facility turned into a command post. Engineers repaired the beacon's damaged systems. Medical crews treated the wounded. Fighters brought in maps and plans. The resistance was waking up again. And this moon was their first stronghold. But one voice echoed louder than the rest. Lyra's. She stood before the new arrivals, standing on the beacon's platform. No longer afraid, no longer hiding. She raised her crystal high, its glow lighting the room. "My name is Lyra. I am Korn. I was a child when the Draxans destroyed my world. They thought we were weak. Gone. Forgotten." She paused, looked around. "But we are still here, and we remember." Murmurs filled the room. Lyra continued, "This crystal holds more than memory. It holds truth. It holds their weakness. And now, it holds our future." Cheers rose from every corner. Jack stood in the back, arms crossed, grinning like a proud uncle. Later, under the quiet sky, Jack and Lyra sat by the edge of a frozen cliff, overlooking the moon's endless plains. The fire crackled beside them. Above, new defense satellites shimmered in orbit. "We did it," Lyra whispered. Jack nodded. "You did it." She turned to him. "You helped me." He smirked. "I just gave you water and a ride." She laughed, nudging his arm. "You did more than that." A pause. Then softly, "What will you do now?" Jack looked at the stars. "I don't know. I've been running most of my life. But maybe it's time to stop." "You could stay," Lyra offered. "Help us rebuild." Jack thought about it. The soldier in him itched to move. But something held him here. A promise. A child. A second chance. The next day, a ceremony was held in the beacon hall. Lyra stood with the leaders of the resistance, now being called the Rising Flame. Her mother beside her, Jack just behind. A young commander stepped forward. "Today, we honor two beings who stood when others fell. A Korn child who lit the stars, and a human who shielded her flame." He looked at Jack. "You are not Korn. You are not part of any army. But you gave everything." "Why?" Jack was quiet. Then he said, "Because someone once told me a single spark could light a forest. I found one spark. I chose to protect it." A large banner was raised above the beacon tower that evening. It showed the symbol of the Korn, surrounded by flames. Below it, a quote. "In the darkest night, one human showed up, and everything changed." Weeks passed. The Draxans began to fall back. Their systems glitched from the Korn code. Their ships stopped mid-battle. Their armies lost communication. Planet after planet began to rise. Lyra's signal had spread far and wide, and wherever people fought back, they whispered the same story. The girl with the crystal, the human with no name, the fire on the moon. One day, while walking near the outer field, Jack heard a small voice behind him. "Hey." He turned. Lyra stood there, holding something wrapped in cloth. "For you," she said. He opened it. Inside was a small badge. Handmade. Simple. It showed a star, with a flame beside it. Lyra looked up. "You don't like medals. So I made you one." Jack stared at it. Then, slowly, he pinned it to his jacket. "It's perfect." In the end, they didn't win because they had the biggest guns. They won because they refused to stay silent, because a child stood up, and because a human refused to walk away. Across the stars, a new legend began. Not of kings, not of warlords, but of a little blue girl and the human who saved her.